Hello everybody, my name is Jason Merkel with Horizon Hobby, and I'm joined here today by a very special guest. This is Mr. Matt Andren, well, hang on, aka Mr. Foam.
Yep.
So for those that don't know Matt is actually the designer and developer behind the very original and now very popular Timber.
Yep.
So how long ago did you come up with the design for this?
You know, it wasn't too long before we actually released it. I just started from kind of a blank slate sheet of paper when I started designing the airplane. The end goal was to make kind of the best STOL, short takeoff and landing kind of airplane I could, and still be a good RC model.
Right.
You can go a little too far and make it so it, can't even roll or fly invert or anything. So I wanted to kind of have a little bit of that, but still get really good STOL performance out of the airplane.
Yeah. So prior to this coming out, you had taken some of our existing airplanes.
Yep,
I think
absolutely.
an Apprentice.
Yep.
Even one of our Cubs.
Yep.
And you made them STOL-esque.
Yeah, so I took one of the original Apprentices, ripped out the battery bay, flipped it 180, made it a tail dragger.
Okay, that's right, yeah, tail dragger.
Put some gigantic flaps on it, actually enlarged the rudder a little bit so I had more rudder authority for doing slips and things like that. Put giant wheels on it, of course, and actually had the whole span of the wing be able to droop.
That's right.
So full span flaps, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool airplane.
But from that, I think you learned that there were certain design elements that lended themselves better to certain levels of performance. Obviously, larger rudder, so you could slip better. Slats affected it this way. Flaps affected it. That slotted flaps might work better, for example. And you took all of that and you put it into a model that looks like a real airplane. It's not a scale airplane, but it's optimized for better STOL performance than your average Bear, similar sized airplane. Right. And then more importantly, that it's easy handling.
Yeah, it is a very friendly airplane, and because it can fly so slow, it's got a pretty wide speed range. It's very comfortable slow. It doesn't have any really bad characteristics that will bite you if you're trying to come in and do a STOL landing or anything like that.
Exactly. I think that's what impresses everybody about it. And so you guys probably know this airplane is extraordinarily popular. Almost everyone I know has one. Every flying field I've been to in the last 2.5, 3 years, there's multiples.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something that I see low time guys flying. I see very experienced guys flying them. I know some people that have even learned to fly on it.
Yep.
It does have safe select in there, and that safe does make it easy to fly. We do not officially recommend it as a trainer. Right. We still would recommend an Apprentice or something like that. We say this is, either one of these would be a great second airplane. Yeah. But I do know some guys who went out and bought one of these. They bought a nice DX6 radio transmitter, and they kind of went all in. The downside of that was the airplane's not quite as durable. I wouldn't say not durable, but I would say it's just there's more things on it. Right. There's more bits to it. There's more things for a guy to potentially break than say a regular Apprentice or something like that. But even still, it handles so easy. Yes. That those guys could keep up with it. Right. And that's partly because it flies so slow. Yep. They could take off and land in areas they wouldn't normally fly in.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen some videos of guys flying in places you just wouldn't fly. I mean, an ultra micro might be tight, and they're flying this airplane.
Didn't you fly this in your yard?
No, I did not.
Oh, not your yard. Okay. The UMX, I know you do.
Yes,
fly right
absolutely,
yard,
and it's pretty tight in there. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So now we have most people are observing this 4 Timber models that are available, and so we have the original Timber 1.5 model here, which we're showing. We've got the new now Turbo Timber 1.5 meter model. We have the very popular UMX Timber. Yep. That airplane is amazing. I love that airplane. I fly it a lot. That's my favorite, all-time favorite ultra micro. You did an amazing job on that. That one we cheated a little bit. No, we didn't cheat, but you modified the planform a little bit on the wing in particular. Exactly. To enhance the performance of that one. Maybe a little more chord in the wing, bigger ailerons, because that thing rolls awesome.
Yeah. That was kind of one of the, I would say, negatives for some pilots is the lower roll rate of this airplane. And again, you can see the ailerons are fairly small and the flaps are gigantic, and that was intentional to give you as much lift as possible. A lot of the short takeoff and landing airplanes have very small ailerons and very large high lift devices on the wings to try and keep it slow. Even the guys doing Super Cub modifications for like the Valdez STOL stuff, they tend to cut down the ailerons and make the flaps larger for that very reason.
And so we did make the ailerons larger on the UMX Timber.
Correct.
And then on the Timber X, which we'll get to here in a little bit, the now aerobatic 3D extreme version of the Timber, we have much larger ailerons.
Oh yeah, they're pretty massive.
And much larger flaps, but in chord at least. And so that's a very different animal, which we'll get to here in a minute. But the reason I bring up the UMX is because a ton of guys have that and absolutely love it. And one of the things they love about it is the enhanced roll rate that it's got. Exactly. It also has just enough power to kind of hang on the prop and things like that. But I think when this airplane originally came out, people were like, yeah, it's got good power, but in the time since then, the world has changed.
Absolutely.
People want even more power.
They want ballistic.
Like, hey, I can hang on the prop, that's pretty darn good power. 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio, that's great.
Exactly.
No, now it's like, oh, I need at least 1.5 to 1. I just can't fly an airplane unless it just goes straight up and I never have to see it again.
Exactly.
So, we did go ahead and enhance the power in the turbo timber, which we'll talk about. And so let's first and foremost talk about the similarities. So they are basically the same overall platform.
Correct, yeah. The wing is basically the same airfoil, same flap size, same aileron size. The tail is the same. The fuselage is virtually the same, basically from firewall back, if you want to call it that.
So the spare parts would technically be interchangeable. There are some minute differences, mostly in the trim scheme. So we sell the spare parts with the decals already on them, and so there will be a new set of spare parts for the turbo timber versus the original timber, but the fuselages, for example, would be interchangeable.
Absolutely.
The only difference, again, being the stickers, and then from the firewall forward, we've got a new motor mount.
Yep.
We've also got a new cowl, obviously, and a new motor. So it is the same motor, I guess, but different kV.
Correct.
Different wind.
Yeah.
So we rewound it, we tweaked it, we optimized it for performance in this airplane with a cool 3-blade prop. And so overall platform's the same. One of the big changes, though, is the wing overall rigidity and stiffness.
Yes, yeah. The decal you can see on here is basically a full sheet, and it really increases the stiffness of the wing, and especially since going to a 4S power system, you're going to have a lot more top end speed, a lot more performance, and with a long skinny wing like this, it just tends to twist at those high speeds. So putting this on here makes it much more stiff and rigid, and actually improves the roll rate too.
Yeah, so I think everybody was kind of impressed that watching the two fly, you can actually visually see a difference.
Yep.
It's not that you could see the wing on this flex, but it's like this one just looks tighter and more precise in the air.
Exactly.
And then everyone that's flown it so far has said the same thing. It rolls way better.
Yeah.
So the aileron is the same, the wing is the same, it's just stiffer now.
Exactly.
And that makes it roll better. And so it overall handles better than the original. So I asked you this earlier, personally, which do you believe is the better airplane?
Truthfully, yeah, I like the turbo. It's got that extra power you need.
Yep.
It's got the same feature set as the original. You can fly it just as slow. I'm kind of a turboprop kind of guy.
Yeah,
I love turbo noses. I did that to the Hangar quarter scale Cub. It's got a turboprop cowl and a 5-blade prop and big double slotted flaps and giant tires. It's kind of what I do. So.
Well, looks are subjective. We know that. Not everyone's going to be in love with this design. I'll say this though. I remember looking at over the years the different generations of cars.
Right.
And so this body style goes to here, and the new body style comes out, and I'm like, oh, I don't like the new one, at least in the pictures, or I'm so used to seeing the old one. And then out in the real world, I start to see the real one, and I'm like, oh, that actually looks pretty good.
Absolutely.
And so, that said, the original one's going to be available for a while.
Yep.
So some guys, if you prefer the looks of that, no problem. You're still going to be able to get that. You could also change the front end of a turbo timber to be like the front end of a regular timber. You could change the motor mount, you could change the cowl out, and boom, you got a regular looking turbo timber. But obviously we put turbo on there because we wanted it to look like a turbo-propped airplane, and we wanted it to have turbo power. So
absolutely.
I think we did all the things that people talk about doing to an original timber, we've already done for them here.
Right.
The biggest thing is we gave you more power out of the box.
Yeah.
So we've got a 3S and 4S compatible power system. Now it's not exactly the same power system that's in the Timber X.
Correct.
We specially wound this motor for a different KV, so it works well with this 3-blade prop.
Exactly.
So this 3-blade prop though does work on 3S and 4S.
Right out of the box, no changes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
no changes, no upgrades, no modifications, no prop changes required. And this prop actually is something people might recognize. It's from another airplane of ours.
Yep.
The Cirrus.
Exactly.
So the Cirrus propeller, I believe it's 11 by 7.5. The Cirrus version does have painted tips, so when you get a replacement prop, it'll have painted tips. But actually, the painted tips look kind of cool, or you can, take them off with some paint remover.
Absolutely.
But that said, it is that same prop. Now we are going to do some testing on some more 2-blade props. That way, we just have a 2-blade prop recommendation. For example, we're thinking like a APC 1365, the 13.4 from the Timber X would probably work pretty good on it. But we want to come up with a 2-blade prop option that's maybe more readily available for some guys. They might already have it, or they might just like the looks of a 2-blade prop. So we'll publish that here shortly. But in the short term, you'll be able to use the Cirrus prop as a replacement. Again, motor is the same, different KV though.
Yep.
So the original Timber has a different KV from the Turbo Timber, from the Timber X. But now the Turbo Timber, just like the Timber X, has a 50 amp ESC instead of a 40 amp ESC. We also then changed all the servos.
Yep, every one of the airplanes.
So every single servo, not just the wing servos, they're all metal geared now.
Yep.
And that's a big deal because the original servos were fine. they got the job done. But even I personally was helping somebody, and I knocked into the aileron and I stripped a servo.
And that's usually how it happens. You bump it into a door, you bump it in your car, you do that to it.
Yep.
And that's usually what takes it out, or a hard landing where you happen to smack something on one of those surfaces.
Exactly. I did see people on a hard landing strip servos. So a lot of guys would take all the servos out, or as they needed, they would replace a servo one at a time, and they would buy a more expensive metal geared servo to replace it. So the next thing you know, you spent $40, $50 on new servos, and then maybe you upgrade the ESC, you change the motor so you can run 4S. Next thing you know, they got $350, $400 into a timber, and they love it that much that they're willing to put that time, effort, and money into it.
Exactly.
But we decided, why not give them all that out of the box?
Right.
Give them the more powerful power system out of the box, 3S and 4S compatible, and on 4S this thing is
it's a ballistic. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know people were happy with the 3S power of this, and then they got tired of it. I don't think you're going to get tired of the 4S power on this.
This is kind of the right level of power where you have from low and slow to ballistic vertical, and it kind of does it all. So it definitely widens that envelope of this airplane that much more.
Yeah, so we're excited about the power out of the box. I think everyone's going to be actually on 3S it's very good also, kind of like that was.
It's about equal to the original one on 3S.
So you don't need 4S batteries, guys. I don't want you to think, I got to go buy all new batteries. If you buy a 4S battery, you'll like it,
right?
But you don't need it.
Right, and the great thing is you don't have to do any ESC programming. You just, whatever battery you're flying that day, plug it in. The ESC will give you the beeps of it 3 or 4 cell, and you're good to go.
Awesome. So look, no modifications, no upgrades. The servos, that's another huge thing.
Right.
And in fact, I think a lot of guys are kind of surprised that it costs $20 more.
Right.
But this is why. So the original Timber was $249.99 for the bind and fly basic, $250. It is $30 less for the plug and play version. The Turbo Timber is $269.99, so $270 US for the bind and fly, and it's $239.99 for the plug and play version. So again, it's $20 more than the original Timber, but here's why. You're getting metal geared servos. You're getting a higher capacity ESC. You're getting a specially wound motor. There are some other things that take, like for example, putting this decal on the wing is more work. So you do get that. You also do get, just like the original, the optional leading edge slats. They're installed on this original Timber. They're not here, but they do come in the box, so you can install those. Really quick point on those, if you install those, you will get less down elevator authority inverted in particular. Those are intended for, slower, better slow flight performance, a little more lift at lower speeds, a little more drag, I think.
A little bit, but not a ton.
They actually change the performance and make it more of a, obviously, STOL, slow flight, upright, capable airplane. So if you want better inverted performance, don't install the slats. Once you glue them on, you can remove them, but it's not pretty.
Exactly.
So keep that in mind. But we also include the floats.
Yes.
Just like the original, you get the floats in the box that bolt right on. There's no modifications required for that. They also come with matching decals.
Yes.
So the decals on those floats match this airplane. Now, some guys were really torn on the Timber X. They're like, I don't understand. Why didn't you include floats with the Timber X? Well, a lot of guys are buying the Timber X to do 3D with.
Exactly.
And most guys aren't going to use floats on a 3D airplane because it obviously hurts the power to weight ratio, the aerobatic capabilities.
Exactly. You get that weird pendulum effect and roll and stuff like that. It just makes it harder to do 3D basically.
You can install these floats on a Timber X. They don't have matching graphics, but there might be some alternatives out in the market for that. But you don't necessarily, most guys aren't going to use those. But a lot of guys used their floats on their original Timber.
Absolutely.
For many people, it was their first float airplane.
Yep.
And so this airplane does come with those out of the box. We decided to leave those in there, and I think it's because it's kind of an expectation with the original Timber that you get the floats. It's a part of what makes it such a great value and such a versatile airplane, and so we kept that versatility and value here in the bigger guy. Again, it is a little more expensive, but for good reason.
Exactly.
But if you're really concerned about that $20 price difference, no worries. The original one will be around for a little while.
Yes.
But ultimately, this replaces it.
Yes.
This will become the new standard Timber model in the 1.5 meter size. And I think it makes sense. Most people are going to want more power. They're going to want more durable servos. You may or may not like the looks, but again, you can manipulate this to look like that. And then also what I think is going to happen is we're going to see some Franken timbers.
Of course.
I think we're going to see a Timber X fuselage and a Turbo Timber nose and a Turbo Timber wing and regular Timber stickers or something like that. So I would not be surprised if we see some of those things. Oh, real quick, I do want to point out another difference. To help offset the weight of the longer nose, we do have the steel rod.
Correct.
In the horizontal tail. So the Timber X comes with both the hollow carbon or fiberglass tube. It also comes with the steel rod as well for a little more tail weight. On the Turbo Timber, we didn't put that in there. So it comes with that. And so the weight's a little higher overall, but the wing loading is very much the same. And honestly, I don't think most people would be able to tell the difference.
Not really. I mean, it's pretty minimal, and again, it's the very slightly larger ESC and the Metal Gear servos. That's really what's doing it. I mean, even the extending the nose really didn't add that much weight. It's more the brass gears and the servos that really start adding up the grams.
Exactly. I think if a guy wanted to, he could strip a couple ounces out of this by trying really hard, using a lighter weight battery, so on and so forth. But again, most people aren't going to be able to tell the difference. So again, these kind of are very similar, and that's why this ultimately replaces that. But let's move that. I'm going to bring over the Timber X so you guys can see this, because I think that the next question is, okay, so the original Timber is replaced by the Turbo Timber, but why do you have a Timber X and a Turbo Timber? Well, they're very different animals.
Absolutely.
And I just use this example for our sales staff in particular. You know, there are guys like me that I really appreciated and liked the original Timber, but I never bought one because I had so many other airplanes. I just didn't nearly have the space for it. And I also wanted it to have one thing more than anything, which was more roll authority.
Right.
And so the Timber X was kind of the brainchild of that, was an airplane that combined some of the Timber traits with more roll authority, in particular 3D capability. And yes, guys, we don't believe that the Timber X is the ultimate 3D airplane. It's capable of 3D flying.
Oh, absolutely.
But it is not the best 3D airplane in the world. We know that. But it's a great bridge the gap between a STOL performer, a semi-STOL performer, and a 3D airplane.
Exactly.
So there's a reason that they both exist. And I think a lot of people are going to own both. And I will say, having seen this fly now, having flown it, I will also buy this.
Yep.
I would not have bought this and had an original Timber, but I will own both of these. Now, I don't think everybody's going to own both. I think there are some guys that are going to pick one or the other. Like, you know, my dad, for example, he's probably going to see the Timber X and go, I mean, it looks cool and all, but I'm not into aerobatics or 3D. I just want all the traits the original Timber had.
Right.
But more power, metal geared servos. So he's going to go with something like the Turbo Timber.
Exactly.
So there's a reason for both of these to exist. The wings are interchangeable. So a guy who buys both, they could, you know, just have one fuselage. The Timber X fuselage has the larger rudder, has the stabs with the larger elevator on it, the shorter nose, of course. Again, there's going to be some Franken Timbers. To be honest, we want to see your Franken Timbers. If you guys buy one or two or all of them, we want to see you swapping parts. I would love to see photos of that. It might look funny with different looking stickers, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody buys all the parts and paints it in a really nice matching trim scheme, and it looks amazing. So,
oh yeah, we've seen a lot of repaints of the original Timber and even the Timber X now that have really been cool. Some military versions, some scale versions. There's been some really amazing jobs that people have done out there.
So these are very different animals, and I think they're going to appeal to different customer bases, but also different pilot and flying styles. And at the same time, again, there's almost a reason to have potentially both.
Yes.
In your arsenal of airplanes. So there are obviously the differences we talked about when we compared this to the original one: shorter wingspan,
yes,
larger ailerons and flaps, and then also the ability to mix them together.
Do full span ailerons,
versus
exactly.
The Turbo Timber, original Timber, now the Turbo Timber has the slotted flaps, which work better for a lot of obviously STOL type flying and slower flying because of the way the air flows through the crack, or doesn't. Or
right. Yeah, it basically helps the air stick to that flap as it's deflected, so you don't get a lot of turbulation behind it. Just actually deflects the air downward better and gives you higher lift. So.
Yes, and so it's a whole different performance of flap. Aileron is smaller, but again, with a stiffer wing, we've got better roll response, but obviously this is going to outroll it.
Oh, all day long.
Without a doubt. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if some guys put this front end on that airplane.
Yeah.
Because it could be done as well. So I can't wait to see some of that. And I think, again, there was some confusion when we first announced this morning. People were like, I don't get it. Why do you guys keep doing all these Timbers? You guys, if you think about it, it is kind of interesting. Over the years, for a long time, we had a bunch of different Cubs. We had giant scale Cubs and ultra micro Cubs, and that's because Cubs sold. And every type of guy had a different need. Some guys needed an ultra micro to fly in their front yard. Some guys needed an airplane to fly at the park. Some guys needed a giant scale one to fly at, their favorite giant scale fun fly.
Exactly.
And so the Timber is kind of like your modern day Cub. It gives you a lot of the easy flying characteristics, but it actually handles better in a lot of ways. Yeah. It's also more aerobatic. Personally, I kind of really love the looks of this. I like Cubs, don't get me wrong. I'm not down and on Cubs at all. We saw lots of Cubs in our lineup for a reason, but I really like this kind of as your modern day new Cub, so to speak. So, don't be alarmed, guys, if we have a couple more sizes of these down the road. Well, one of which is kind of already out there.
Yeah,
a much larger one. So do some digging. You guys will probably find that, and that'll be out later this year. And different construction type, different power system types. So that's a neat one. But I think there again are reasons we're going to have multiple Timbers. And so far, everyone that's flown the different Timbers we've had has appreciated each one for what it offers.
Exactly.
The UMX Timber is extraordinarily popular right now. It's our #1 selling ultra micro. People love that thing. And obviously the Timber X is really popular because it just came out, but obviously I'm positive this is going to become the new hotness, the new bestseller, just like the original Timber was for a long time for a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
so.
I think once people get their hands on the Turbo Timber, they'll really start seeing that extra performance that it has and really enjoy it. So,
yeah. So we're going to be out flying these things in force everywhere we go this year.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
I can't wait to fly both. I'm not going to just pick one and have one. So that's going to be exciting. So any other questions that have come up maybe on social media here?
When will these be available?
Question is, when will these be available? So the Timber X is in stock and shipping now. The Turbo Timber is actually just arriving at our warehouses now, and so these will be shipping out next week. You guys are seeing this video near the end of February 2019, and so this will be in stock and available right at almost the end of the month. But my suggestion is pre-order now. There is a limited supply in the first shipment. So if you want one, make sure you go on our website, horizonhobby.com. You pre-order it there. You can pre-order it through your favorite local hobby shop, your favorite online retailer, but do it now. Otherwise, you may not get one of the first batch, and then you may have to wait a month or two to get one.
Exactly.
So we do have quite a bit coming in, but again, it is also still a limited supply. So if you don't act fast, you may miss out. Of course, these will be readily available after that. And I mentioned this before. The original Timber is going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
It is a finite supply. We only ordered a certain amount to get us through the next, we think months maybe. It depends on how things go. Maybe everybody just buys us and absolutely falls in love with it, and we sell no more of the originals. Oh well, might happen. Or maybe there's a run on originals because guys kind of like the looks of it. No problem, we understand that. So we are selling them side by side for a reason. And so again, this is available around the end of February 2019 in the US. It'll be available in Europe not long after, I think roughly a month, and also in other markets around the world, depending on the distributors there, when they place their order, when their shipment's coming in. We're just coming out of Chinese New Year, where a lot of factories shut down and don't ship for almost a month.
Exactly.
So that kind of affects things a little bit, but we wanted to make sure this thing was out there so guys could still enjoy it in the snow, which by the way, there is a ski option available. If you guys check out the original Timber page, there's a video from, I think, the Dubro guys on how to install their skis on the original Timber, which will fit on the Turbo Timber, and then going into flying season. We want everybody to already have one of these in their arsenal, because right now is when guys are starting to think, hey, the weather's getting better, what's going to be my new ride for the season, that kind of thing. So again, it will be available soon. Any other questions?
Will this be at AMA this weekend?
Will this be at the AMA East Expo this weekend? Yes, I think. No, it will be. We sent one out there specifically for the event, so it will be on display. You will not be able to buy it at the show, but you will be able to see it firsthand at the show. So if you weren't planning on going and you're in the New York, New Jersey area, make sure you get over to AMA East. Check out our booth there. Yeah, any other questions?
No, I think we're good.
Good. We talked it all out. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully it's all good information for you guys. As always, we appreciate your support. Be sure to check out horizonhobby.com. We have some other cool announcements today as well. So there's always great things to see on Thursdays with us. But also be sure to check out, we're going to have the full video of this posted the next week or two. The weather's been a little rough for us, so we've had a hard time getting out to shoot it, but we will have some more video footage of this, and I think it's what you're going to expect. It's going to look like a Timber in a lot of ways, but it's also going to roll faster, and it's going to have a heck of a lot more vertical performance.
Exactly.
So, hard to beat all those things. So thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate you joining us today, and thank you guys for joining us.